Hello and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name's Brian, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, Soul Nation. Today we're diving into tips and tricks for Outriders. This is going to hopefully help answer your questions about the game, about the loot, about the mods, and a couple of nice quality of life features that you might not know exist. As with all my videos, you can always feel free to use the chapter markers in YouTube to jump to any particular section that you wish. And as always, if you have questions, let me know in the comments below. I am thoroughly enjoying this game, and if you're considering playing this or you're using this video as a way to try to decide if you should check it out, honestly I would say start with the demo. Your progress from the demo will carry forward into the full release of this game, and that way you can kind of get a taste for it yourself, see if you like the combat, see if you like the flow, and if you have any issues or concerns you can always let me know. We could talk about it. But let's have some fun, let's dive into the content, and let's dive into teaching you everything you really need to know about this game and where to start and what to do. First things first, I actually want to highlight this video with talking a little bit about the classes. Now I have a full video detailing the classes, so that will hopefully help you make your decision, but you can see here you can actually have 6 character slots and you can have easily one of each class that you can play around with. And honestly, at the end of the day, all of these classes are completely viable. I have found joy in each and every one, and there gets to be some crazy builds. Classes are really going to be driven by their armor and their modifiers, which can completely change the way you play. If you want to play a pyromancer as a tank, you can do so. If you want to play a devastator as something kind of more ranged, you can build for that as well. And the flexibility of the class system is truly exciting to see. Now, when you start the game, you're going to first create a character. It's going to take you through the prologue, and eventually it's then going to ask you to create a class. Further playthroughs, you can actually start from picking your class and just kind of diving right into the game. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with my main character, but if you ever wanted to know how to get in, especially when you return to the game, it's always going to have you on your previous character that you've selected. You can press B to actually return to your character selection and process into the game itself. So just note that's pretty simple and straightforward to go from there. If you're starting the game, if you're going on farming loot runs and things like that, you can always come here and say select starting point, and you'll see the different chapters of the game itself to be able to pick and choose a starting point if you want to do that as a part of the story, if you ever want to replay anything about the game. But for the most part, you'll probably come in here and just hit continue. It's going to launch and you'll be ready to rock and roll. So let's dive into and talk about the real core system of your builds and what you need to know when it comes to modifiers, what they mean, what you should be looking out for, how does the user interface all interact with it. Now, I typically use a controller, so I'm going to try to translate controller and keyboard and mouse. But a couple things I want to point down to you guys. If you're using the UI, you can actually resort all of your items by their name, by their type, by their rarity, by their level. So you just click on the left stick or use the tab button if you're in keyboard and mouse mode. You can hit left trigger to actually compare items and contrast to what you have. So if you have compare on, it's going to show you exactly what you have versus what is being equipped and where its values go. This is really handy. And for those of you who really like stats, the game provides that by pressing the right trigger or hitting the shift key on the keyboard and mouse to be able to see all your stats. So from a min-maxing build world, you're going to be in heaven. But let's go ahead and shift our focus quickly to the conversation about mods. You can see here with this mod, the strongest first, I have it as a tier 1 mod, and it's going to impact my class skills. All your mods on your gear is going to have a positive impact on your class and on your build as far as what it goes. Whether you're Devastator, Pyro, etc., you're going to have mods here that basically play around with exactly what you're working with. Now, you can also see here that this mod that I've got right now is a tier 1 mod. That's the number that's above it. Mods currently at the time of this video go up to tier 3. If later guides are needed, if later updates on this game happen, be sure to either hit subscribe on this channel so you don't miss those, or check the top link in the description of this video so that way you can get caught up on all the Outriders videos that we have as a part of that playlist. So hopefully you're able to find exactly what you need, but if you need any help, just let me know. Now, beyond that, I've also added this mod to the collection, and you can see that by that nice square, kind of almost X square box on the right hand side, right below the max health value. That means I've actually already broken down this mod and collected it. Now let's say I was going to go ahead and just kind of like break these things down. You can see here I'm using a mouse and right clicking, making it very easy, but on controller you can also use the right stick as a click, and anything marked with the recycle button can be one of two things. You can actually dismantle it from this menu by holding the Y button or holding the delete key, Or if you go to a vendor and you want to go and bulk sell, anything that you actually pre-mark is going to stay marked, and you can sell those in bulk to a vendor. It's actually incredibly well thought out in that regards. But also, if you hover over the dismantle marked option, it will tell you what you're going to get. In this case, I'm going to get resources of leather, and I'm also going to get shards. In this case, bonus firepower plus 18 and anomaly power plus 18. This is all going to tie into the crafting system. So note that as you kind of farm up your shards, as you farm up your gear, you're going to have these items to be able to use to enhance your future builds and more. That's all going to be a part of the crafting system. We'll do a detailed guide over that once that comes into the game with the full release of it. Now, like I said, I always recommend you start with the demo, get hands-on with this game for yourself, see what you feel about it, and kind of go from there. But I'm going to highlight more about the mod system itself. First and foremost, I can pick on this one. You can see the strongest first is marked in red on the piece of gear that is I'm hovering over. And the reason it's marked in red is because I actually already have the strongest first currently equipped on a piece of gear. This is to prevent you from double stacking mods that aren't going to give you any additional benefit. And you can see that with the red square and it highlighted in red. Now, if I equip this, it's still going to be marked in red on the new piece of gear because it's just telling me I already have it equipped. And actually, in this case, I'm just replacing it on the same piece of gear with a higher gear score. Now, regarding the gear score, you can see this is 201. Obviously, I have smaller pieces. Don't put so much pressure on the armor rating, especially early on, because mods can completely change how you run and how you play your class. So I actually kind of more or less favor the mod itself overall, with some rare exceptions, as I'm currently testing and doing different farms of the gear itself. But note that you can easily see all of these items, and you can see what you've got marked for recycling, and you can even turn things on for recycling and turn them off for recycling. Now, on the left-hand side, when it comes to weapons and modifiers, this is also a huge collection. Now, you can see here with Golem's Limb, that's a legendary drop that I've got. It's got a lot more stats than a typical blue. It's going to have more stats than an epic purple. And with that stat, you can actually see I've got a Golem 3 Rising and a Vampire 1. I've collected Vampire from another drop, but Golem I haven't dismantled. Now, if I would to set this to dismantle, I'd actually probably have to switch it out. If I were to set this to dismantle and hover over the dismantle mankind, you can see here I would actually collect the tier 3 mod from dismantling it. Now, before I accidentally press a button and regret that immediately, let me go ahead and re-equip my Golem's Limb, because I'm really, really loving the legendaries in this game and in this system. So note that don't worry necessarily too much about the firepower. While it is important, the mods can ultimately come into play here. And there's a ton of awesome mods, like Freezing Bullets is honestly one of my favorite ones, and it's a lot of fun to play the game with the mod system. And right now, especially if you're kind of preparing for the full release, or you're trying to decide if you want to play, you can farm up stuff in the demo, carry it into the full release, as I've stated there. Now, as a brief note, while you can't double stack the same mod, it's not going to give you the benefit, there are some mods in the game that we have yet to see that can have additional effects that are not necessarily going to be hindered by that red text box. So just kind of keep in mind, future builds are going to get a little crazy in this game. Now let's go ahead and jump into the details of the weapons themselves. I'm going to highlight this because this kind of plays again into more dismantling. You can see here close range damage has that shard icon. This means that when you dismantle certain weapons that have that shard icon, that's the type of shard that they're going to give you for that crafting system as well. So there's a lot of flexibility when it comes down to the crafting system. And if you're ever wondering what that symbol means, that means it's going to give you shards upon breakdown. All right, now that we spent a little bit of time on mods and gear, I want to kind of show you a couple things about movement and your settings. You can see here within my UI, if I actually hit start and go to options, you can customize pretty much everything about your UI from the HUD display menu. So you can turn off damage, numbers, minimap, XP bar, world tier bar, quest tracker, all the wonderful things that you can kind of play around with. So feel free to go nuts when it comes to your UI and your experience with the game itself, because there is a lot that you can do here. They really thought about a lot of the quality of life. Now, speaking of more quality of life, let's say you're aiming your weapon. If you press down on as a click as the left stick, you can actually switch your shoulder. So helping to give yourself a little bit of a better angle will give you that absolutely. So just note that you can kind of play around with that. On the mouse, it's going to be the middle mouse wheel. These are kind of how you do it. Now, there's also two types of standard melee attacks. Pressing the right stick is going to act as kind of a single target melee. This is going to act as an interrupt, and if you're sprinting, it will actually turn into an AoE melee, and this is for all the classes as well. Another quick tip is that if you're running around and there's lots of loot that drops on the ground, congratulations, I'm excited for you. But you can also hold down on the D-pad or press the H key on your keyboard to be able to suck in all the loot drops. So you don't have to run over to each individual piece of loot. You can actually just press a button and it's going to come and have it auto loot for you. Now within the game itself, there is actually an auto loot option that you can kind of play around with and find the best choice for yourself. So you'll see here auto loot minimum rarity, and you can adjust that so that you're only maybe auto looting the things that you want or need the most. Earlier on in the game, I would recommend lowering this down to common, as it's going to help you out dramatically. Later on in the game, we'll probably end up seeing this increase in its rarity, so that way you're not having to deal with too much inventory management, which we all know is awesome in video games, right? And finally, let's say you don't want to play this game by yourself. You can actually use any of the matchmaking stations to find you a party. The nice thing is that you don't actually have to wait around to find a match-made team. You can continue on, and the game is going to try and matchmake you while you play without having to stand at that pillar. So just note that the matchmaking system, while it might have some issues, especially around launch, is a nice tool that you can use and maximize to your best efficiency. You don't have to sit here and wait around for it to find the team. It will continue to matchmake you in the back end. And you can see here, it's actually found myself a match while doing this. Perfect. Way to go, team. And that brings me to the end of this video. Hopefully some of these tips and tricks have been a help. Hopefully you're enjoying your time either with the demo or the release of Outriders. My name has been Brian and this is Ginger Prime. I love making guides and talking about action RPGs. If you feel like I earned your subscription with that, with this video, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments if you do, so that I can officially welcome you to the Soul Nation. But with that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope to see you in my next one, but until then, take care.